Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at onpurposely.com.
This week on the Bible for Busy People, you and I are going to pursue peace like a lioness pursues a gazelle. Are you ready? I'm Erica, your host, and today you and I are going to focus on how peace comes from knowing who's in charge. The Bible has a lot to say on this subject, and you and I know that peace ultimately comes from Jesus Christ, from having that relationship with Him, from knowing that He's with us all the time. But we're going to take it piece by piece this week and put together the puzzle of what it looks like on the table of our lives. So are you ready? Can you find peace in a lion's den? Or better yet, I feel like the question is, can you find peace knowing that you could be sent there? And I believe the answer is yes. Now, you might know the story of Daniel in the lion's den, but maybe you're not really sure why he was thrown in there. He was thrown into a den of lions because he was faithful to the one true God. You see, Daniel was one of the captives removed from Israel and taken to Babylon. He worked for the king of the earth there, but he served the Most High God. And we're going to see just how faithful Daniel was today. All right, Daniel 6, beginning in verse 1. Darius the Mede decided to divide the kingdom into 120 provinces, and he appointed a high officer to rule over each province. The king also chose Daniel and two others as administrators to supervise the high officers and protect the king's interests. Daniel soon proved himself more capable than all the other administrators and high officers. Because of Daniel's great ability, the king made plans to place him over the entire empire. Then the other administrators and high officers began searching for some fault in the way Daniel was handling government affairs, but they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. He was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy. So they concluded our only chance of finding grounds for accusing Daniel will be in connection with the rules of his religion. See what happens when we let jealousy take over? So the administrators and high officers went to the king and said, "Long live King Darius. We are all in agreement, we administrators, officials, high officers, advisors, and governors, that the king should make a law that will be strictly enforced. Give orders that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions. And now, your majesty, issue and sign this law so it cannot be changed, an official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked." So King Darius signed the law. But when Daniel learned that the law had been signed, this is key here, he went home and knelt down as usual in his upstairs room with its windows open toward Jerusalem. Okay, small tent here. With the windows open for all to see, he was putting himself at risk. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done, giving thanks to his God. Okay, let's stay in this tent here for a second. Peace comes from knowing who's in charge. Daniel knew that his life was in the hands of his God, and he trusted him. Okay, verse 11 now. Then the officials went together to Daniel's house and found him praying and asking for God's help. So they went straight to the king and reminded him about his law. Did you not sign a law that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions? Yes, the king replied, that decision stands. It is an official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked. Then they told the king, that man Daniel, one of the captives from Judah, is ignoring you and your law. He still prays to his God 3 times a day. These little tattletales, right? Hearing this, the king was deeply troubled, and he tried to think of a way to save Daniel. He spent the rest of the day looking for a way to get Daniel out of this predicament. In the evening, the men went together to the king and said, Your Majesty, you know that according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, no law that the king signs can be changed. So at last the king gave orders for Daniel to be arrested and thrown into the den of lions. The king said to him, "May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you." I actually think in this moment, Daniel is about to enter the lion's den with more peace than the earthly king who is sitting there worried about him. He has seen Daniel's faithfulness, and he's starting to wonder about his God, I believe with all my heart. Okay, verse 17 now. A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. How terrifying. The king sealed the stone with his own royal seal and the seals of his nobles so that no one could rescue Daniel. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night fasting. Wow. He refused his usual entertainment and couldn't sleep at all that night. You see, when you live for God, people notice. They know there's something different about you. Verse 19 now, very early the next morning, the king got up and hurried out to the lion's den. When he got there, he called out in anguish, "Daniel, servant of the living God." Did you hear that? Was your God, whom you serve so faithfully, able to rescue you from the lions? Daniel answered, "Long live the king. My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me, for I have been found innocent in his sight, and I have not wronged you, your majesty." The king was overjoyed and ordered that Daniel be lifted from the den. Not a scratch was found on him, for he had trusted in his God. Then the king gave orders to arrest the men who had maliciously accused Daniel. He had them thrown into the lion's den along with their wives and children. I don't like that part. The lions leapt on them and tore them apart before they even hit the floor of the den. Then King Darius sent this message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. Peace and prosperity to you. I decree that everyone throughout my kingdom should tremble with fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and he will endure forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and his rule will never end. He rescues and saves his people. He performs miraculous signs and wonders in the heavens and on earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions, and he will rescue you too. From that situation that threatens to steal your peace, you just remember who's in charge today. All right, till next time, you are loved. Thank you for making time for the Bible for Busy People today. If being part of this community is a blessing to you, it's super easy to share this podcast with someone you love. We're all about spreading the hope of Jesus like butter. So if you've got a moment to write a review, boy, we'd really appreciate that. Maybe you need a little prayer today, or you're ready to take that next step with God. I invite you to check out our show notes. You're going to find lots of encouragement there. This podcast is one branch on a tree called Purposely, a podcast network designed with practical podcasts to help you find and thrive in God's purpose for your life. If you've got a pulse, you've got a purpose.